Executive Director of the NFL Players Association, DeMaurice Smith, joins us now. Look, we keep hearing words like bullying and racism and hazing, and nobody likes to hear that. But DeMaurice, it puts you, the NFLPA, in an interesting situation. How do you protect and encourage the rights of both Mr. Incognito and Jonathan Martin?
Well, and as well as the other players in that Miami Dolphins locker room. I mean, look, for our union, we have a mission, and we have an obligation to protect the interest of all players. So what we will do is we will make sure that both players' interests are represented. We'll make sure that and insist on a fair investigation, and we'll do our best really to improve the professionalism in our locker rooms.
We all know that hazing takes place in the NFL. I mean, we actually saw it depicted on film a generation ago when we were kids. Brian Piccolo had to get up and sing the Wake Forest alma mater at training camp for the Bears. How comfortable are you with the level of hazing that goes on in the NFL right now?
Well, I think the answer for us is I'm not comfortable with anything in our locker room that is not professional. So to me, the real goal of our union and really for our player leadership is to make sure that our players and management is aware of the obligations about creating and maintaining a professional locker room. I know that hazing takes place. I know that ribbing takes place, whether it's the guy that gets tied to the pole or the guy that might have to buy a dinner. But when those things are taken to an extreme, where it is either hurtful, where it is non-constructive, the goal of our player leaders and the goal of our union will be to make sure that our locker rooms are professional places to play.
Are you okay if it's not taken to the extreme? Because there are a lot of people now who are saying, let's just ban hazing.
Well, look, I think the goal would be we should ban anything where there is hateful, hurtful language. Our position on the language that was used. There's no place for that in our locker rooms. When we still have people in our league, thankfully, who are with us like Bobby Mitchell or George Taliaferro, young men who were first in categories of being African Americans with their team or first drafted in this league. Our history is one that should be supportive and one that reflects the finest traditions of NFL players. When any of our players fall below that, I know that our players, leaders expect more, and I know I do as well.
Why is behavior that is generally considered unacceptable in most workplaces allowed, okay, in the culture of an NFL locker room sometimes?
Well, I think when you look at that word culture, it's one where our player leaders and the union have to make sure that we are always striving to be better. And whether something is allowed in a locker room that is unprofessional and hurtful, there's no place for it.
How much do you blame the Dolphins coaches and management with what's going on down there now?
One, I don't know. This investigation obviously has just started, but the union will be looking at whether or not management at the Dolphins either encouraged or allowed a workplace to become unprofessional. Certainly, we know the history of the GM in this case with other issues. Those actions were unacceptable then. If there are actions that were taken or not taken to allow this unprofessional environment to fester, if there were things done to either intimidate another player, those are issues that the union is going to look at.
And Morris, what are your thoughts on the sometimes casual use of the N-word among your membership?
Well, I think it's a bigger question. As the father of two kids and a son who's 14 who certainly likes his music, I can tell you our conversations are when certain words are said, I make it abundantly clear about what the root and what that word means. I don't believe that there's a place for it. It's certainly for people who understand the hateful history behind it. No, I don't think that there's a place for that in our locker rooms.
What were your thoughts last week after the report of the recording came out, after it was understood that what Richie Incognito allegedly said, when you saw African-American Dolphin players saying, hey, it's okay, when you saw them giving him a pass, what were your thoughts?
Well, one, after talking to our players and our player leadership all across the country, one of the things we've done, every player meeting that I've gone to since this incident occurred, we start the player meeting with this issue. And to a man, I haven't met a player who didn't believe that the words that were being used weren't offensive. So I don't believe that the players in that locker room were giving any player a pass for using that type of language. The other side of it, of course, do you have players who are teammates, who will do things to support teammates? Do I think that there are players on this Dolphins team who want Jonathan Martin back? Yes. Are there players on this team who want Richie Incognito back? Yes. But I don't think that any player was giving either one of those players a pass for that language.